was like, this all starts and ends with me.
Yep.
If I want to see change in the business, if I want to see change at home, if I want to change, like it's
You
all
have to
starts
change
and ends with
yourself.
me. I have this, all this stuff's going to follow you no matter where you go. You have to change.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show.
What's going on, Eagles? Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show. I'm Joey. I have my cousin and co-founder Drew here with me, and today we are joined by someone very special, Brian McNally. He is one of the few. He is an entrepreneur. He is an investor. He is an investor in Fuel Hunt recently, and had a very large multiple eight-figure exit from a company that he built from scratch. So the community, I'm excited to have you here with us, and I'm excited for the community to get to know you on a deeper level. So we talk about your accomplishments, right, and your exit that you just had. I'm excited for them to hear more about your story and the path that you took to get there, because it was, I feel like sometimes people think that the path is very linear. And the vision is always there, and I have a feeling that you held yourself to a very strong vision to get to where you've been, or where, and ultimately where you want to go. But I have a feeling it wasn't like a super linear path,
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I'm feeling so
messy at times for sure.
Yeah. So we'll dive in. First things first. Let's talk about, you're a Northeast Philly kid. Right?
Born and raised.
Okay, all right, born and raised. So I love that.
He's one of us.
So I had I had a little stint in more ways than one, right? One of the few, but then also, one of us in the Philly sense, born and raised. I had a little stint in North Philly, not too far from around here, but then we moved to the Northeast. So I claim Northeast Philly kids. I have 3 Northeast Philly kids on the show here.
Oh, yeah, it's the first.
I love it.
Nice.
So what was life like growing up in your family and in your neighborhood in Northeast Philly? Let's start there.
Yeah, so, my neighborhood's all, blue-collar workers, cops, and firemen, right? That's kind of the deal. And so growing up for me, Catholic school, I was a Catholic school kid, went to Archbishop Brian, St. Chris up in the Somerton area.
Oh, okay.
So I moved around a lot as a kid, but all through different places in the Northeast, right? Like spent some time in Bustleton, Somerton, Mayfair. I was born in Tyson in the Boulevard.
Okay.
Moved out to Somerton, ended back at Princeton and Tarsdale when I was in late, like senior year of high school. So all over the place. My family life was cool. It was like, my dad's a longshoreman. My mom was like stay-at-home mom, and also like whatever odd and end job she could have. Like, they both just have high school educations and kind of worked their way up. My dad stayed longshoreman his whole life. My mom just took whatever she could get, right? Like admin jobs. Eventually she got into like insurance, and then later in life ended up be doing like help desk and like, business analyst stuff. So kind of from where she came from, like really worked her way up.
Sure.
But we were paycheck to paycheck family. If I wanted little extra things, like we had a shoe or clothing minimum, like that was it, like a cap. Anything above that I had to kick in for myself, like always. But just hardworking Irish Catholic family from the Northeast, right? That was kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
My dad struggled with alcohol, like a lot of people do, I think, in that area. So that had its ups and downs for sure, and ultimately had me needing to be really independent at a young age, right? And self-sufficient, which I think informed a lot of how I'm able to do things I ended up doing in my life, right?
Yeah, that's the beautiful tie that we'll make as the show goes on between, your upbringing and the lessons that you learned there, what to be and what not to be, how to act and how not to act, and how that translated into ultimately your success, as an adult, really. We have similar stories, similar upbringings, right? So not Irish Catholic, but Italian Catholic, but the same type of thing, like blue collar, you know what I mean? I was in Fox Chase. So I don't think you did a stint there, but you did a stint in surrounding areas. So, thinking about my childhood, let me ask you a question about yours. Did your parents primarily instill work ethic in you with words or by example?
A little bit of both, right? Well, I would say, they both were hard workers, right? And definitely by words. My dad always had an ideal of who he wanted me to be that he struggled to live up to himself, frankly, right? his mom died when he was 12. He's the youngest of 10. Like, he was basically raised by his older brothers. Like, so he's just a big kid at the end of the day. So he just went to work because he had to go to work and he had to pay bills, right?
Sure.
But he stayed committed to that, right? He knew as the father, that was his job, to bring home a paycheck, right? And so I've always was raised that way. As a man, you're valued by what you bring to the table, right? And so always doing hard work stuff, like if I was always picking up extra stuff. I started working when I was 13. Before that, like me and my brother used to collect cans from the recycling bin and take them to the recycling plant, get money that way, shoveling, all that stuff, right? Anything I could do. Me and my boy would shovel snow. Blizzard of 93, I killed it.
Yeah. we all did.
Did like a 12-hour day. I'm like, oh man, I'm crushing it.
Too.
We were in prime shoveling form.
Oh yeah,
you and I for the Blizzard of 93.
Yeah. I think I still got back muscles from that trip. But yeah, so just always raised like that, and then just in the neighborhood. I mean, that's how. Dude, you can't be lazy. Like people didn't respect you, right? You didn't get respect if you were like the guy who couldn't carry his weight.
Yes.
And so it's just how we were,
That's the one thing that nowadays we've lost in neighborhoods, right? Yeah. It's my belief that we've lost in neighborhoods. There was, in my neighborhood growing up in the Northeast, there was a accountability that we had as like a block. Like as that block of Burhome Ave, we knew each other and like we were accountable. We said that we were going to take care of the front of our homes. We said that we were going to clean up our snow. We said that, if we had parties that we weren't going to park in front of certain houses. Like there was like accountability, you know what I mean? Because you didn't want to be the lazy one or the one that wasn't considerate of other people on the block.
Or like the old lady in neighborhoods whose car got shoveled out without anyone even asking.
Yes.
You never had to ask those kind of questions. You just did it, right? It was the right thing to do.
Yep.
And so, it's a tougher place, right? You got to be able to handle your own and all that kind of stuff. But in some ways, it's more of a community than the nice, beautiful suburb I live in now in Tampa, for sure.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, we've lost that. And to some degree, I think that we won't go down this rabbit hole, but to some degree, I think it was, over the past decade or so, actually more than that, maybe 2 decades, like a systematic attack on the family unit and the community unit. To try to, divide and conquer with different agendas.
I'm all about some toxic masculinity, man. I'm
that ultimately weaken us as a society. Well, they do 2 things. They make us feel alone and they weaken us. And that's why we start a Fuel Hunt.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like I take that as a personal responsibility to take care of my neighbors, my family. Like I take that serious. I mean, that's important to me to be a protector and a provider for my family.
Yes.
And my wife and children, they appreciate it and respect it, frankly.
Parker is literally my son, the only child in our neighborhood that I see bringing up neighbors' trash cans. Like that was such a simple thing that my parents told me to do. Like if you see the trash can, just like take them up for your neighbor. Like but you don't see really that anymore at all.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't a big video game kid. Like growing up, I was more like outdoors. Like I was outdoors, I was in the woods and stuff. But I do remember, Sega Genesis back in the day. Like I was killing some, I don't know what it was, Sonic maybe or something. And I remember my mom yelling up from downstairs and being like, our neighbor was coming home with their bags of groceries. Yeah. And it was the same type of thing. Like, the elders on the block, you carry their groceries. Like that's what you did.
Going to they are trying to make us isolated and alone. And toxic masculinity, it's like, if you look at, I don't remember I saw this, but it's like if you look at all the dads that are portrayed on sitcoms and TV shows, they're not us, right?
That's part of they're the punchline.
It's
like dad's the punchline now, right? It's just this goofy dumb guy.
Yeah,
exactly. Goofy dumb guy, no social awareness, no couth, no smarts.
Just wants to sit around, have a beer, watch the game, and be left alone, kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Yeah. So that's where I was getting with like systematic attack. You know what I mean? And maybe people did it just to poke fun, and I don't know why writers started doing that back in the day, but it's had like very severe consequences. Yeah. On the family unit, masculinity, all that good stuff. But we don't have to dive down that rabbit hole right now. So you said at a very young age you were pretty independent.
Yeah.
That resonates with me, and I know that'll resonate with a lot of the few. I was too. I was walking to school real young, 8 years old, coming home, starting to cook dinner. Like I had a key to the house when I was walking to school at 8, second grade. And it was like a mile from like where I lived to St. Cecilia's.
Okay,
Yeah, it's like a mile.
Yeah.
But I had a kid, came home. You know, my parents were working multiple jobs, so you know, I was getting dinner ready. Right. You know, I boiled the hot dogs, like, you know what I mean, like whatever I had to do. Is that
very similar? I remember asking my mom one time. I'm like, "Hey, where's my shirt?" She's like, "I do laundry on Saturdays."
Yeah.
It's Wednesday, like and I was like, well, I need it. She's like, cool, come on downstairs. That's the laundry detergent. This is how it works. And I was young. I was like maybe 10, 11.
Did you just go shirtless instead? Did you figure
Nah, I mean, I figured it out. I just wore it dirty that day. But other than that, it was like, you know, she was just like, from now on, you know, if you need something done, this is how you do it. So like my mom always raised me that way. Like she would teach me something before she would just do it for me. Yeah. Because she was busy. She was trying to, you know, my dad was in and out and working and, you know, for other issues. And then my mom would be trying to run a household with 2 boys and work, you know? So it was like, listen, help out, like be part of the solution. Right?
That is something I try to do personally, is to not solve all my son's problems. You know what I mean? Like in today's day and age, we want to coddle and keep our kids comfortable. And it's brought us to where we are today in a soft society. So me personally, I try to make him as literally as not needy as possible.
I said something way back in the day. I don't know if it was pre-fuel hunt or during fuel hunt about like stealing problems. Yeah. That's something I refuse to do. And I think that's one of the biggest life lessons that I learned, and why I don't steal problems. I don't steal my daughter's problems. You know, I try not to steal the team's problems. Yeah. Like you teach. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you teach within guardrails. Right. So like you kind of like, I let my daughters bounce off the guardrails. Like they'll fail, they'll do it, like, but there's guardrails. And I let them bounce off. I don't steal their problems. Yeah. You know, it's a very important life lesson. So it sounds like, you know, a lot of that independence, it was out of necessity. Yeah. Yeah. So when I go back to, you know, my question about like, was it words or was it work that was the example for you? You said kind of both. Now I see that. Like for me growing up, there weren't many words, man. You know, dinners were quiet. Like, you know, there wasn't a lot of communication, but there was a strong example of work ethic. Yeah,
I never got like the life lesson sort of sit down, like, hey, here's like I do that with my kids now. Like I'm talking to them as like I'm their coach, right? Like their life coach. I'm like, here you go, you know, this is how you do this. But like my dad, it was just like, don't be soft. Go do the thing. You know what I mean? Like, you're right. And even my mom, to a degree, like she wasn't going to sit there and coddle me. She was like, dude, I ain't got time for this. Get it together. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Grow up, you know, like, so yeah, a little bit of words, but you know, they had a standard from a verbal perspective, right? Like I knew what the standard was, right? And how I was supposed to behave. Yeah. That was pretty clear. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's funny because I do the same thing with my daughters with, you know, I'm kind of like their life coach. Like I'm using obviously actions. And they see my work, but I'm also using a lot of words. I'm like their life coach, you know. I'm like, hey, you feel this? How do you feel today? Like, like
My daughter started to cut me off on it a little bit now. She's a little over it, so I gotta like measure how often I do it. She's like, dude, here we go again with this. How old is she? 11. So she's like 11 going on 19. You know how that is, right? Like she's too cool for it.
But that's exactly where I was going with this. Yeah. So I'm their life coach, and even at 8 and 5. They're starting to get like a little bit like, they're like, this is getting a little tired, Dad.
They do.
Know?
They do.
The lessons, the most impressive things that I've seen them do at their young age, and some of the things that I'm most proud of them for, it was, this is a popular phrase, but it was caught, not taught. So in other words, they are mimicking something that they saw me do or my wife do, a particular behavior or the way we act. It wasn't my words. Yeah. So I'm trying to check myself nowadays, and they help me with it. Yeah. I'm trying to check myself with the words and lean more into the work.
Yeah, we've seen some great things like recently with my kids from that front. Like my son's super empathetic and just like nice to people. He just wants to be super nice to people, right? Yeah. He sees me go out of the way to be kind to everyone I interact with, hold the doors, like all these little things. And now he's like a little gentleman. He goes out, introduces himself, shaking hands, looking people in the eye. I love that. At 7, right? And it's awesome. And he just naturally just does it. And even my daughter, like not too long ago, she's got into like competitive cheer. Yep. And we never encourage her to work out. right? We're not challenging her to do that outside of the stuff she just does with sports and stuff. But she sees me and her mom work out every day.
Yeah.
She comes down and goes, "Can I go in the gym? Can you teach me how to use this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, baby, it's working." And to your point, it's sinking in. She sees us do this all the time. And when she knew she needed something, she knew exactly where to go. Oh, I need to get bigger, stronger. I know how to do this. This is what mom and dad do, right?
Beautiful
I was like
260
pounds in like grade school and high school, like, and my parents would be like, "Oh, like go work out, like go lose, like you need to lose weight. You're heavy." Like, and they were never doing either of those things. So where would I feel inspired?
Took you longer to get to your point because and you know, I don't nowadays. Things are different. Like I feel like physical fitness is a big part of culture right now.
Health, I think, is.
Yeah. When we were growing up, like not so much.
With like
you know
podcast era we're in, it's like there's so much information. There's no excuse to be overweight and out of shape or unhealthy.
Yeah. So you mentioned you went to Ryan for high school, right? Big school. Ryan was a big school.
Yeah.
Compared to
close to 3,000 kids, I think, maybe when I was there.
It was a big school.
Like
yeah, big school. I only had a couple hundred kids, and I went to McDevitt, but
we all went to each uniset or multi boy girl high schools in the Archdiocese. I went to Wood. You went to
McDevitt.
You went to Ryan.
I actually did a stint at Wood my freshman year.
Nice.
I won't take you down that rabbit hole. But
we're talking about paths that aren't linear. Like it's already starting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's already starting.
I'm always taking risks and just doing. Like I literally went out there for no reason. I'm like, I already know everyone there. Let me just check out this place and like.
Yeah.
A year later.
That's why. That's what landed me there. I just didn't want to be with the people that I had just gone to school with for the past.
Something different.
I just need something new.
You said you take risks. Like one of the things. From what I know about your life story, like you exemplify the rules of the few. There's a couple rules in particular, but really just like overall. So that's one of the things I'm excited about to get into your story a bit. So after high school, college, like, you know, was it slam dunk? Like, hey, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to...
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm going to be honest, there wasn't a lot of forethought in my life at that time.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and we're from a generation where it was like, still automatic. Like
it was like the thing you need to do, right? You know, I remember asking my dad, like, "Can I come down the waterfront with you? Good job, benefits." And he was like, "No, over my dead body. Like, you're going to go to college," and because that's just like what we all thought we had to do. And and a lot of times, it's still, I mean, it's loosened up now, but you couldn't get a job in the business world, most of the jobs, without a college degree. It was like a prerequisite. So, but I had no real direction, man, if I'm being honest. So, I was a kind of a wild kid from like 17 to 20. I was like a dichotomy, man. I'm like A and B student because school just kind of came easy to me, and captain of the lacrosse team, like athlete, also selling drugs on the weekends or any other time I could, like, and just getting in trouble, like really like pushing the envelope.
You're a businessman from day one,
dude. Tell you what, I mean, certainly a weak decision, right? Like just trying to get ahead, but it was out of this desire to get ahead. It was like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I need to get ahead, and I'm working at Steve's Prince of Steaks. Making cheesesteaks. I'm also a janitor.
Shout out Steve's.
Yeah, shout out to Steve's.
In Philly.
Yeah,
shout out Steve's.
Yeah, I worked there through high school. I was also a janitor. I'm like working 2 jobs, doing lacrosse. Like they used to leave me a key at the grade school next to Ryan.
Yep.
And they would leave me a whole floor just to clean for myself. Like when I would go to practice, and then after practice I would go do that. At the same time, I'm like, well, I still need more. Like this isn't fully paying the bills. And so now I'm you know, things are around. I'm obviously adept. I'm a hustler, right? So I figured out the easy path, right? Almost my success story could have very easily been a cautionary tale.
That's the time too when like it wasn't as accepted. You know what I mean? Like you get caught with that more more than an eighth.
The stuff I was landing with was going to, and the sizes I had, it would have landed me in jail for a long time.
Wow.
Right? You know what I mean? So
man, it's crazy how.
But I didn't have direction.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to Cabrini College. My buddy was going there to play soccer. I had a stack of envelopes that I never even opened from colleges because I went to like a showcase, and I just didn't. I was so just checked out, you know. I was just going through the motions, just living this wild life. And
no interest in playing lacrosse.
I was supposed to go to play lacrosse at Cabrini.
Oh, okay.
And I got like a few months into like fall ball, and I'm just like 6 days a week, team study halls, all this, and I'm like, I just want to party. I'm out, you know.
Yeah.
And so I finished out the year there, and this is how I ended up coming to Florida. I finished out the year there. A friend of mine had family in Florida, so she went down there for school, and I went down there for spring break. And I'm looking around. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, this is what you're doing?
Like, this ain't Philly, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, sign me up. I'm out, right?
Cabrini's in like the middle of nowhere too.
It's right by Villanova. Yeah, it was like a little tiny Catholic
Yeah.
college, which it was like a regression for me to go live in it. I'm totally independent since I'm like 15. You know, I'm like living
Now
on
you're
my
in a
own.
cement box. You're in a cement box.
I got some RA knocking on the door telling me I can't. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I didn't even really think about that. Yeah.
like it was crazy.
Yeah. He's like, oh, you have to live this way now, and you're like, wait a second.
I'm adult. Like I've been on my own since I was 15. Like pretty much. Like my mom, I was completely self-sufficient, and I'm like, these kids can't even wipe their own ass, and I'm like, whoa, dude, like this ain't for me.
Yeah.
USF was a whole nother world. It was like I had an apartment down there. I'm an adult again. And I was like, all right, this is cool. Plus fun in the sun and all those good things.
I was gonna say my brother leaves for college in a couple weeks, and the dorm thing it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You cram sardines into a box, and then
bro, literally, it's a block room. It's they didn't even try, dude. They didn't put up drywall. It's just freaking cinder block, dude. Painted cinder block.
Yeah, pretty much.
At least the dorms that I never lived away, but the ones I've been in.
While we're on the college subject, I always like to ask this question to people: like, do you think? But I mean, question for both of you: do you think you'll push your kids to college?
I was literally just working on my financial plan yesterday, and they asked me if I wanted to include college for the kids, and I said no. I just brought my son to an entrepreneur mastermind the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm training them to do what they want to do. I mean, I've created a lifestyle where they don't necessarily have to do that, but like we said, I want them to feel. And so it's like if they really want to go to college, maybe they're math or science focused or something like that. Yeah, go for it. But I kind of want them to take out a loan to do it. I want them to feel the pressure because if mom and dad are paying for it and they know it, I saw those kids at school and they most of the time they didn't work that hard, right? So I want them to feel a little bit of heat. I might help them out later, but I want them to think it's on them at a minimum. I want it to be their choice.
I was one of those kids because I didn't truly understand or grasp the weight of what was. My parents didn't pay for it completely. They paid for like half or a little bit more. And I'm still paying off my loans to this day, but it's like I didn't really comprehend what it was I was taking on. And I feel like if I was more involved in the process or took them out myself, then I'd be like, okay, like I got to take this shit seriously. I'm on the line for this.
Yeah. We did, my parents, like paycheck to paycheck, like they couldn't afford to pay for school. But my mom made sure, and I didn't really have a concept at the time, but my mom made sure to be like, first of all, you're getting a scholarship. Like, that's just how this is going to go. So, like, I had that hanging over my head. I was like, and that song and dance, like that march started real early. That march started like 7th grade or whatever. So I knew I had to do that. And the other thing is, like, when she filled out, my mom, shout out, Mom B, filled out all of my, like, FAFSA, Sally Mae, like all the loan paperwork. But she made me painfully aware, like, what was going on. Like, people were going to give you money, and you need to deliver on this promise. Not only do you have to pay it back, you have to make it worthwhile. You know, and she didn't do it with those type of words. I think she just showed me the sheet and numbers on it, and I was just like, whoa, like, you know what I'm saying? You know, but to answer your question, I don't, and I ain't trying to cop out, but I think that the world, for the ages that my daughters are at, I think that the world is going to change so much by the time that they get to that decision point that it won't even be a decision point.
Yeah.
And if it is, you know, I would advocate for no. You know, ultimately, I want them to do what fulfills them, but I'd advocate for no.
Yeah.
You know,
the whole system needs an overhaul. I don't want to put them into a broken system.
Is not sustainable. The way that the universities is not a sustainable model. Tuition is going up, salaries are in the reverse. Like, it's not a sustainable model.
I mean, if you think about it from any other business, right? Like, you got to deliver for the customer.
Exactly.
The customers aren't coming out of there with anything of value after this. And it's an awfully expensive thing to have to not have any value, right? That's how I looked at it. I mean, just
if you could buy a $300,000 object that was going to sit on your shelf and not provide you any value to create the life that you want for your family, right? Those you love and the world around you, would you do it? No. Like,
That is my biggest.
no, I would not buy that thing and put it on my shelf.
Right.
One of my
That
biggest,
diploma.
and we're coming down hard on college right now, but my biggest qualm is that you and I, Brian, get to attend the same school and get the same degree and have a totally different experience of classes and what we went through to get that degree. So why do we have the same degree if I did double the work and you use ratemyprofessor.com and got all of the good teachers that aren't just don't have just have a hard on for their students and want to just make shit hard for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I mean, I saw college do some things, some good things for my buddies that lacked structure.
Yeah.
And that really really had like no clue what they wanted to do with their life. It exposed them to different topics, subject areas, gave them structure. It's just a really expensive way to do it.
Right.
Like from our generation, that was like the way it was done. Now it's different. Like you have complete freedom of information. Like you can spend a couple of days on YouTube and get a good idea of like, hey, this is something I'd like to pursue, maybe not. Like this is what it's like to build a skill in this area, not maybe not. Like for us, growing up, it was like you go to school to figure that out, and you pay dearly for it. You know what I mean? So that's what brought you to Florida the first time, I think.
First time.
Well, what were you majoring in too?
So I just did like a liberal arts for the first 2 years. That was one of the smart things. I didn't try and jump into anything. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Okay.
I rolled in a couple community colleges along the way to make that all happen, which helped keep my costs down in the end, which was actually kind of smart. It wasn't planned, but just what happened.
Yeah.
And then ended up getting a degree in hospitality management.
So that's
because I thought I was gonna be Tom Cruise in Cocktail. Like I'm gonna go to the islands, I'm gonna save money, I'm gonna come back open a restaurant. Like that was the dream, the sexy dream.
That's like a business degree though, right?
It's basically a business degree without math. I hate math. So like I was like, this is cool. I get to swap out calculus for wine. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. You know, like cool.
Calculus was hard, dude.
Yeah, right. Like I had to get up to a certain point, like algebra 2 or something, and then I was out on math. And I'm like, this works for me. Like you know,
that class almost kept me from getting my degree.
I ain't toot my own horn, but I was a diocesan scholar. Do you know what that is? Okay, I was a diocesan scholar, right? So half of my senior year of high school I spent in college. Yeah. I almost lost it because I almost failed calculus. At LaSalle. And I was like, oh my God, like I was never super smart, but I was a hard fucking worker. And that's what got me that Dawson Scholar position. And I was like, I'm going to lose this because I can't pass calculus. I hate it.
Calculus doesn't make sense to me to this day.
But like, here's the thing. This is where college does come to play, right? Like my boy's a civil engineer. He's way beyond calculus, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I just think you need to have the right application for it, right? I just think a lot of these arts degrees I think are just ridiculous, right?
And super expensive,
right?
For no value.
Expensive, right?
Yeah. So you're down there, right? So you're loving life,
tearing it up
in school,
do my thing,
got your hospitality path that you're on, right? So what's college life like? Are you working?
Oh
at the same time? Yeah,
always working.
Yeah.
You know, working at restaurants mainly. You know. Pretty much that, just working and going to school, doing that whole thing.
Yep.
I did some crazy like summer jobs. I actually back up for one summer, went to Ocean City, Maryland.
Yep.
You guys know Scopes, the guys who run around the beach and like take pictures and put them in the little telescope.
Nah.
Like,
no, dude, I don't.
Picture me with like long blonde hair, skinny, running around the beach. Like, hey, you guys ready for your pictures? You know, and
then you put them on one of those little like
the little keychain, keychain.
Okay.
Yes, but it was like a straight commission job.
Hustling.
And if you hustled, like these guys were making like 10 grand a summer, so I'm like, sweet, sign me up, I'm in, right?
I love that.
So I was always doing crazy stuff. I went to like Herbalife.
Yeah.
Dude, credit card processing. I was trying to do credit card processing sales in college, right?
Yeah,
anything where it's like residual income. So I always had this mindset of like, I don't want to keep working the rest of my life like this, right? How can I make money that's going to keep me feeding me? Like I saw that.
Yep.
I didn't really understand it, but I was like, well, that sounds like the way, right? You know? And then like I'm in my senior year, I'm doing my project for like where I'm like interning at the hotel.
Yeah.
And I'm like talking to one of the GMs. I'm like, how long have you been doing this? She's like, 25 years. I just became the GM and I'm just making money, you know? And I'm like, and you give up every holiday and weekend and you had to move all over the world and country to get to this level. And I just was like,
like,
no,
this doesn't sound like the Tom Cruise thing.
Yeah, what happened to Tom Cruise? What happened to the beach? No, we're not doing that? All right. So I was like, no, this is not for me. It just didn't seem smart. I was like, that just doesn't seem like a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to make more money. And so I was like, someone's like, you should just get in sales, man. Like, you know, you're personable, you work hard, like you'll.
Because you have the DNA or you're cut from that cloth. You're like a hustler. You know what I mean?
So I switched gears and I asked the hotel if I could work in the sales department for my internship.
Oh, wild.
And they were like, so instead of like sending me to every department, they were like, yeah, you can just stay here in the sales department and just make phone calls all day. I was like trying to recruit, get businesses to come.
Phones.
Yeah, I'm working phones. I'm making, I'm doing sales material. So I'm like, all right, it's not great, it's not fun, but
Yeah.
it sure as hell beats that, you know,
It
the other
sounds-
stuff I was looking at.
It sounds like even at this age, like you don't have a fully formed idea of what you want your life to be like,
Yeah.
but you do have a vision. Like
Oh,
maybe
I know
you
I
maybe
want-
you didn't know it at the
Yeah.
time, but like you had a vision. You were kind of like, it
I
sounds
used
like
to
you
tell
were.
my mom back in the day, like when I
Yeah.
was a teenager, like I'm gonna find a way to retire early, and like I knew I didn't want to like do all that, right? That was
Yeah.
why the cocktails was cool. It was like, oh, if I stack these chips, I come back, I can open a restaurant, like you know what I mean?
Sure,
Like this is
sure.
a way. At least that's just what it seemed like to
Yeah.
me. But hell yeah, I knew.
Yeah.
Like the idea of working, waiting for Social Security or Medicare to kick in so that I can retire or whatever.
You manifested that shit, dude.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
man.
legit,
I just
like, you
always
fucking
did.
told the universe, you're like, I'm gonna retire early when you were in high school,
Yeah.
and you fucking did it.
I didn't know how to do it, but I just knew I wanted. I knew what I wanted, and I more than that, I didn't know what I wanted. I knew what I didn't want for certain. I did
Yeah.
not want to live that life.
Yep. Yep.
And so,
So, man, what a brilliant move to say, just like park me in the sales department.
Yeah.
And so, because I'm assuming what you did learn there, even if it was just a handful of things for that internship, you
Yeah.
applied later on in your greater pursuits. I gotta imagine.
100%. And the
Yeah.
other thing I learned there is ask for forgiveness. Or
Yeah.
don't ask, right?
Permission. Yeah.
Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, because I never asked my professor that I could do that.
Yeah.
I just told him at the end of the semester that that's what I did. He was like, dude. And I was in like the inaugural class. They didn't want anyone to foul. He's like, what are you doing? Like, you didn't go around the hotel? I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. I just. And he's like, well, it's too late now. He's like, I'm like, well, how'd I do? He's like, whatever, fine. I'll just pass you. Get out of
Nice.
here. Right? Because I put the leverage on it, the pressure on him to just move on. But yeah, I mean, I made that decision myself. I wasn't going to ask somebody. I was just like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do.
Every high performer that I've ever met, especially since we started Fuel Hunt, has a similar story with just hustling. All sorts of different jobs, and it is amazing. And I ain't gonna let my mom down on this show, but it's amazing how many times drugs come up in those conversations with working all these jobs. I've worked in funeral homes, you know what I mean? I've been groundskeeper, I've done letter delivery, like I've done like all sorts of crazy shit. And it's true for pretty much everybody we know that's performing at a high level, like that hustler spirit. And I don't even really like the word hustler, but I'll use it because people get it. You know, that type of work ethic paired with well, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to figure it out later. Right. Which is the permission forgiveness thing.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? They're common threads in everybody that I've seen perform at a high level in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that took me to end of college, and I'm there, and I'm like doing door-to-door credit card processing sales in Florida, in like strip malls, like low-end strip malls, going through like 3 shirts a day.
Yeah.
And I get like halfway through the summer, and again, I have one of these moments like, dude,
What are you doing?
what are you doing? Like, I like the idea of residual income. This makes sense, but I don't think this path is getting you here, right?
Yeah.
And so I looked around. I was like, I don't really know anyone in Tampa, right? I've just been down here doing my thing, and I was like, I got to go home. Now I'm dating for a few years now at this point, my now wife. But this
Okay.
time she's my girlfriend.
And you met in Tampa?
We met in Tampa.
Okay, all right.
Like 1 year after I moved to Tampa. So I'm down dating her for like 3 years. I'd
Oh,
break up with
boy.
her to move back to Philly,
Oh my
which
god.
was like it was a big
This
moment.
ain't a 3-month, 6-month relationship. We were
No, it was like a couple
3 years in.
years, right? And it's like, and I loved her, but it was like, you know, I think sometimes you got to be really introspective, and there's certain points in your life, like, you know, I kept saying, I was like, dude, I'm too young to make my life plan and account for your life goals, right? Like, I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like I said, I knew I wanted better in life, and it's like, I just got to figure this out. And I know one place I can go where I know people who can help me find a job. I've got resources, I've got a network, and it's not Tampa, like it's Philly.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, why did I just go with you? And I'm like, dude, like I can't do that and have to account for your goals and all this kind of stuff. So we broke up for a little while. I come home. I got $1,000 in my pocket. I'm living in my old bedroom, actually my brother's bedroom, because I moved on up since he was out of the house, my older brother. And I'm working at the time it was Jillian's, which is like a Dave and Buster's knockoff at the Franklin
Jillian's,
Mills Mall.
yeah.
Right, like I'm waiting
Dude.
tables there.
No, I haven't heard that name for
Jillian's,
like
what
right,
a place,
10
dude.
years, dude,
What a-
plus.
Yeah, so this is like 5, something like that. I mean, it's only 2024, so we're talking 20 years. My life
Yeah.
has changed pretty dramatically, right?
And you just went through a rough breakup.
And I'm through a rough breakup. I'm out of shape, by the way. Like I'm porky.
The
Like,
girlfriend
I got a
weight-
chin.
The girlfriend weight was hitting.
You can say
Yeah,
fat.
girlfriend.
You can say you're fat, dude.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, which is crazy, right? So, which didn't help my self-esteem any,
No.
right? It's like, I had a beautiful girlfriend
Yeah.
who I got fat on, right, who still loved me, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And now
you had to let her go. Now you're like,
Yes.
oh man, now I'm screwed.
yeah, and I'm like thinking I'm seeing that in my future, right?
Kind of told my heartstrings when you're like, oh, she's like, I'll come with you. And you said no.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
But
tough,
you know
man.
what?
Well, she
Like-
thought about it. She was like, well, are you, well, it was more like, you're not even asking me to go with you.
Yeah,
More than that. I don't know if she was definitely going to go.
Yeah.
But she eventually did, though. Because I eventually asked.
Self-awareness on point though for you, even from a young age. Like it seems like there are multiple moments where you stopped and you stepped back and you were like, hey, wait a second, let me just think about what's going on right now and the moves that I'm going to make. It's that, like, I define it as that self-awareness is like, what I'm about to do next is going to help me or is it going to hurt me?
Yeah.
And in a big way, it seems like you've done that at multiple points in your life.
Yeah, a lot of decision points like that that have worked out. And because I stopped, and
Because
I just didn't just blindly keep going, right?
And-
I'd already made the mistake. I'm like, all right, I got to course correct.
Yeah.
Right?
You also seem being so self-aware, knew that you have to be super happy with yourself and who you've become before you can be that person for someone else. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're just, you really can't pour into, it's my belief that you can't pour into anyone or be a good partner, a good leader, or a good father unless you're happy with the person you become. And you knew there was still more growth for you.
Yeah, it's like I think in a weird way, like I've kind of thought on this more. I think in a weird way, it's like I felt like had she come with me, I would have been more focused on being her boyfriend than achieving my goals. And then I think I just end up presenting her anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So I end up getting a job at a startup staffing company called McGrath Systems with a guy, Mike Wiley, friend of a friend kind of thing. I'm the second employee in a 3-person company. We're up in Plymouth meeting. I'm in the basement of a bank building with no windows. I'm making $29,000 a year and I'm working like 55 hours a week salary, right?
Yeah.
Like, but with the promise of, if you do everything I tell you to do and work your ass off, at the end of your second year, you'll make 75 grand. And I'm like, cool, who do I got to kill? Like, let's do it, right? Like, I'm in. So I get that job and I get settled a little bit and it's like, and then I'm looking around. I'm like, well, I'm really unhappy without my girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
Like, so to her credit, she ends up moving to Philly with me for a couple of years.
How did that happen though?
I called her.
You did?
Yeah, we stayed in touch. Like, we
Okay.
actually stayed in touch a little bit. I was like, listen, I'm not saying I never want to see you again. I just need some time. Like, I can't do this all. I got, this is major upheaval in my life. Like, right? I got to focus on me and get myself right before I could, like, to your point, before I could ever focus on you, realistically, to be fair. And so, I mean, my wife's a saint. She's so awesome. Like, and she's pragmatic as hell too, right? And like, she was like, okay, well, let's figure it out. What does it look like, right? And then,
amazing.
so she ended up, she's a dog too. Like, she went and beat out like 250 other people to get a pharmaceutical sales job in Philly, selling
year
the
was
little
this?
microchips. It's 2005,
Oh
2006.
yeah, so that's like when it's like there was a boom going on in pharmaceutical sales, but you had to be like you had to be a dog.
Yeah, like she went in there, she studied, she did the whole thing, you know, all the stuff, and she came out with the job. So it's like, now I got a decent job, or I'm on my way to making good. She was making good money. Like, the startup I was with was really successful. We won fastest growing company in Philly on like the Business Journal.
Yeah.
We went from 0 to like 6 million in 3.5 years.
Oh.
Wow.
Right. And so
Wow.
I'm starting off like, so my first real job out of college, I'm seeing it all. I'm seeing a startup from the ground up. I'm sitting right next to the owner while he's renegotiating leases. He's dealing with banks to get lines of credit. You know, he's pawning off just training new people on me, firing new people on me, like within a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Welcome.
Yeah. Like, I'm in, you know, but I'm loving it.
Sick. How old were you at the time?
Well, I guess so 25, 24.
That's sick though.
Yeah. So I was just like, all right. But this goes back to the, like, being raised the way I was.
Yep.
Whatever. Like, I was already like I very much carried myself like an adult. So people would always be like, how old are you, man? Like, they're like, oh, it's easy for you to say you're 30. And I'm like, dude, I'm younger than you. Like, you don't realize that. But I carried myself. I was a savage, frankly. I was, you know, the idea of being like an empathetic leader and all that stuff was not in me. And the way that my mentor worked, I mean,
Well, you're in that.
we were just intense.
In that vertical and in that startup space, like that's like boiler room shit.
That's exactly what it was, man. We just grinded all day long. We had a kid come in at noon and leave at noon. He's like, this is just too intense. I want nothing to do with this.
I've my come up in tech. It was the same type of way. Like, we weren't working phones, but we were building software in 3 months that should have taken 1.5 years to 2 years.
Right.
So it was like we were sleeping there. You know, CEO had a couch in his office. We would take shifts sleeping on the couch. Like, it was a grind, but you learned so much.
We
You
were in a
make a lot of
basement with no
mistakes.
windows. I didn't see the sun like almost the whole week.
Yeah.
I'd be there before the sun came up in the winter.
Yep.
And I was in that office till it came out,
Yeah.
and we just sat at my desk and ordered in. Wasn't great for my health. I came out of there about $190, 5'6", no muscle, looking good.
Listen, man, sacrifices, aka investments, will be made.
Yeah.
You
But
know what I mean?
in hindsight, I didn't need to do it. I could have done it all, which I've later figured out in life, and we can talk about that.
Ain't that amazing to figure out? Yeah.
Yeah, I eventually figured it out. It took me a while, but so I got to see that up close, and I got to just, and which was cool because I got to be me. I mean, I'm an intense dude. Like when I'm on a mission to do something, just get out of my way. I'm doing it. Like I don't give a shit. And that's how we just burn through people all the time.
The dude that left at noon, like you were probably 10 minutes from telling him to leave anyway.
Yeah,
so like,
we were like, see you, dude.
Yeah.
No worries. So that was not an issue. But so
it sounds like you had. So we're kind of spoiling the surprise a little bit, but the business that you grew and ultimately exited was a staffing firm, correct?
Yeah, ultimately.
Okay.
Yeah, my whole career is in staffing.
So you now have basically like a view directly into the heart of the machine with this first job that you have.
100%. And his goal was to grow it and sell it. Like that was the mission.
Yeah.
So
which he ended up doing eventually.
I'm just curious. I might be jumping ahead in your
No, go
plan,
for it.
but can you take us from your exit from that staffing firm and to starting your own? Like, how did that?
Yeah.
There's a few things in between there. So, but I'm like a sponge at work. I sat with him and I would just ask questions. Why are you doing this? How's that work? And I was committed. I called him one night, like after I'm grinding, right? And I didn't think I gave my best effort that day. I literally called him on the way home. I was like, hey man, I'm sorry. I've been checked out. Like I just wasn't feeling it today. And he just started laughing. He's like, dude, you're insane. He's like, you're killing yourself for me. But he's like, what are you calling and apologizing for? I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like I gave my best.
Have a standard for yourself.
Yeah. And I had that standard. So that's just how I was wired. Right. So anyway, we have some success, but like I said, I'm really out of shape. My wife's now been in Philly for like 2 years, my girlfriend at the time.
Yep.
And she's from Detroit originally. She's like, listen, not for nothing. I didn't leave Detroit to end up in Philly. Like I liked it in Tampa. Sure. Any chance we could make this happen? And at the time I was working so much. I didn't see my friends and family anyway. I'm like, yeah, why am I even here? Like I don't need to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get to see anybody. I work all the time. And so he let me open an office for him. I told him I was going to leave. He goes, don't leave. Let's open an office in Tampa.
Oh, so you were prepared to you're just like, I'm
was.
going to close up shop.
It was hard for me. I was emotionally attached to that business because I was invested.
Oh,
That's how I am with anything. We were going to sell that company and I had equity in it from I earned equity in it through my performance and stuff like that.
Sick.
So in my mind, I'm like, this is the thing.
Yep.
But I burned myself out, man, because I was unhealthy. I didn't have well-being. I didn't, it's just, it was all work. That's it.
Eating, living like that, like just not seeing the sun, eating, ordering in, like
You're
eventually catches up.
Yeah, and that's basically what happened. And I'm like, man, I can't.
I did somewhat of a similar thing to myself, like sitting behind a computer, 17 hours a day, whatever, 18 hours a day, like sometimes 24 hours a day, like running yourself ragged. Yeah.
So I end up leaving. We go down to Tampa. I opened that office for him in Tampa, and this is 2008. Basically.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm doing light industrial manufacturing, staffing. Yeah. And the world goes to
light industrial manufacturing.
Yeah, I mean, just brutal stuff. I learned so much work.
What month do you remember what month it was in 2008?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I know there was a point at which I called him up. I said, hey, I don't quit easily.
Yep.
You need to save your money. I'll go find another job. Like I fired myself. I was like, I've done everything I can possibly do with this business.
Amazing.
I was like, I was like,
during that economic downturn, you're saying.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm pivoting. I'm trying IT. Like I'm doing everything I know how to do.
Yep.
And even if I start to get some traction, you're 6 months to a year from this thing even barely coming back. If I'm successful with these paths, and I just don't see it happening, man. And he's like, are you firing yourself? I'm like, yeah, I think I just fired myself. I was like, he looked out for me, right? This guy gave me an opportunity. I'm not going to throw it in his face and just suck up a paycheck when I'm not delivering for him, right?
Yeah, you're looking out for him.
Yeah, we have a great relationship. And I'm like, dude, I'm giving you my honest assessment of the situation. I'll be fine. I'll find a job. Like, but you're going to burn money. You need to keep your business going up there.
Did he let you fire yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. We wrapped everything up.
Smart.
And,
Smart.
And he just put the investments back here. In the main business.
Yeah, smart. So now you're back on the market.
I'm back on the market, put my
you still
resume
had
out.
equity in that company, right?
Yeah, I had a little bit of equity in that. It didn't get to at that point, I was, planning on being there long enough for it to be meaningful.
Yeah.
And to add more to it. So I had a little bit. And he cashed me out a few years later and stuff like that.
Okay.
But not a lot. It wasn't like a meaningful, right?
Gotcha.
So I did that. I put my resume on the market. I get a call from a company down there called K-Force. Staffing firm, big, but now I'm in $1 billion international staffing firm.
Oh, boy.
And
now you got to be Mr. Empathetic.
What a rude awakening, man. That
Different
was
culture. Different culture.
Yeah, I mean, we're like celebrating birthdays, and we're doing cake, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Didn't know. My second week there, they nicknamed me McNasty.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Because I showed up we do these whiteboard meetings in staffing where it's like, hey, sales team has these jobs, recruiters, and staffing doesn't work unless both sides of that coin are operating efficiently, right? And so the world I came in, I mean, that's a time for accountability. And and we're not there to hurt your feelings. We're just trying to get the job
we have a standard
done. We have a client we have to deliver for. We've got things, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I walk into this meeting and the sales guy's like, well, I've got these jobs. Like, how are we doing? And they're like, I don't have anybody. And then they move on to the next job. Listen, I don't have a dog in this fight at all. I just happen to be at the meeting. Yeah. And I'm like, if I'm going to be, and I'm used to running these things, not just participating in them. And I'm like, if I'm going to leave my desk where I should be over there trying to make money for myself to be here, like I'm going to add value. I'm going to help this get better because I'm wasting my time otherwise. I'll just go back to my desk. And since I have to be here, I guess I'm going to ask the people some questions, right? You wanted me here, you're going to get me, right? So I was just like, well, hold on a second. And they're like, what? I was like, well, I just had some questions. Like, how many people did you call? Why didn't they want the job?
Yeah.
Was it a bill rate, like a pay rate
Let's
issue?
get better.
Is it a location issue? Like, what can you go back to the client? I'm just peppering my question. What can you go back to the client with to get better information so that you can fill the job, right? Like, it's all about getting better. It's the performance of the company that matters. Everything else is irrelevant. And people just looked at me like I was crazy. Yeah. And I'm like, well, these are real questions we should be asking here. Otherwise, let's just go back to the desk and send an email saying I have no one and we get on with our day.
Yep. Yeah, I knew.
So they jokingly nicknamed me McNasty.
McNasty. I mean, do you like that name? Because if you do, I think I'm going to keep
it. I mean,
let it go.
It's cool. I mean, it's a good memory, but
All right, I'll let it go then. I'll let it go. Dope name though. I mean, Google searches for it though. I don't know if it'll really be good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what's going to come up?
I think we're going to stick with McNally, McNally.com.
You don't need that domain.
Yeah. So that shift, man. I've got some of my own personal stories. Like I didn't do well in that corporate thing either. Yeah. So I kind of stayed in my lane in like the agency world where, that you could bring that type of fire and passion and, you didn't get penalized for it essentially, I
had a boss who was really adept at navigating those waters, right? So he was like my roadblock because I would always go to him, dude, why is this can we just fix all this? And one day he's like, hey man,
yeah, he was showing you how to.
You can't fight every fight. He's like, you're going to make yourself crazy.
Yeah. And
so I learned, right? So this goes back to growth in everything, right? There's always a learning opportunity. I could have sat there and been pissed off and been like, this place, but I took the opportunity to learn, and that got me into healthcare, which was obviously a huge shift in my life because I ultimately ended up starting a healthcare company, which is the reason I have the success I did.
Sure. So
I just soak it up. I'm like, well, how's this work? I could have easily done staffing there and not really learned about healthcare and billing and how it works, but that's not how I do things, right? So I'm like, the more I know, the more confident I am, the better I can deliver. So I just constantly grew. So I'm asking him questions like, well, how do I handle this? How do I get this across the goal line when I got to get approval from a VP? So I learned from him that skill.
The organizational dynamics
just understanding all that. And then I learned how to, I learned about healthcare, like in depth, like how hospitals bill and get paid and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Did that for a few years, was like one of the top performers, doing well, doing my thing, kind of growing my income, moving up a level, get married to my wife, so we're progressing a little bit. And then I get an opportunity to work for a consulting firm in healthcare. Because I kind of just got tired of being there after a while. Like I felt like I kind of capped out.
Yep.
And I could have stayed there and kept making probably more money, like selfishly, purely financial. I could have stayed there and made money. And it was the better, pure financial decision. It's just to stay there. But I chose growth. I chose to go add a new skill set and go to this consulting firm where I ended up traveling around the country with this former hospital and insurance company executive. But I was traveling like 3-4 nights a week, doing dinner, sitting in a room with executives, sponging everything up. And then I learned the whole insurance side, how they do what they do.
Yep.
And I learned like consulting, like, so now it's not just staffing. Now I know how to like go in and talk to them about, hey, we can help change your business, right? Do that. And then we had my daughter and it's like, this is all during her first year of life, and I'm traveling 3 nights a week. And I was just like, no, that's not a life I want to live, right? This is cool. I'm earning, but I got to make an adjustment. Right?
Yeah.
So, but I have a reputation for adding value, right? One of the old VPs from K-Force is now somewhere else. I reach out. She's like, yeah, man, come over here. I'll make a spot for you. We could use you over here.
Yep.
Where I get to work from home, add more skill in healthcare, learn how to outsource departments, all that kind of stuff. So now I'm just deepening my knowledge and my skill and aligning with my family goals, you know? And I think that the lesson for a lot of people is like, don't just accept it, right? Don't accept, oh, this is what I need to do because it's a paycheck. I'll just suck it up. No. I mean, if you challenge yourself to build the life you want, find the career you want, the job you want, and like you said, manifest it, make it happen, take action to do it. Like, you know, I could have sat there, but I was like, no, this isn't what I want. I'm going to put it out and try and find people who can help me find the life I want.
The thing that keeps people from like best or better is that they accept good, like a lot of times, right? And you had a good situation. I'm sure you were financially doing well for yourself. It sounded like, you know, you're sponging it up. You were enjoying what you were doing. Seems like to me that you're a curious person, like a lifelong learner. You get benefit from that, like self-worth from that. You know what I mean? Building skills. So you could have been like, hey, this is really good. Yeah. So I'm not going to go for better or best. But
so I did growth. I did that job for a few more years there, and you know, but I always lived below my means. Yeah. Like, and my wife's pretty pragmatic. Like that's like, so we were just I'm like, hey, I'm in sales. I could be killing it this year. I might not be killing it next year. So let's always just stay here, right? So like my coworkers are driving Beamers, and I'm driving a used Toyota Corolla with manual windows. Yeah. But I'm stacking chips. Because I know, like, even this is not the life I want ultimately. Ultimately, eventually, I want to start a business. And I didn't even know what it was. But to your point, I knew I just wanted something different. Even in that world, I'm working in the cube farm till wait until retire. That's just not what I want. So I was just stacking chips until I could make a move, right? And that was really the plan. And my wife was down for that too. So I end up getting to a point where I'm making like $200,000 a year as a sales guy. I mean, it's a good life. I'm working from home, like the whole nine, right? But I still wasn't happy, right? And put myself in a position where I saved up like a year's worth of living expenses. And then my business partner, who was a guy I used to work with at K-Force, me and him had always stayed in touch. We were talking about starting something. I mean, at one point, I didn't care what it was. It was car wash, Chick-fil-A. Like, I didn't care. Really? I was doing something. Yeah, back when I was at K-Force, so a couple jobs before this, like where I was at, we would sit up, me and him would sit there late at night and just talk about, like, dude, one day, man, we got to do something. We got to do something. That's the only way to make money, like, to really have.
That's interesting. As you're telling the story, I'm thinking we're like going more and more down the path of like, okay, it's got to be a staffing company, but like, actually, like, it's you could have
taken an off ramp.
In fact, I did not want it to be a staffing company. It's the last thing I wanted to do. Yeah. Because I'm burned out, man. It's a grind. And me and him were like, anything but staffing, right?
Yeah. My wife did staffing for a while, and it was brutal.
Yeah. And so that was the plan. It was like anything but staffing. I was like, I'll figure it out, right? But I was saving all this money. And then, you know, we come to the realization, we're like, our quickest path to success, man, is staffing. Like we know how to do this. Most efficient. We know how to do this. Like, let's just bite the bullet. And I think this becomes where we have a really good point as to what I think designing with the end in mind is important. Right? I knew I didn't want to run a staffing company the rest of my life because but I was willing to do it if I know where the end line, where the finish line is. Right. And we'd seen what some other companies had done. So we set a goal for ourselves to be a $20 million company in 5 to 7 years and then exit. Like, talk about having a North Star. I mean, that was it. Everything else was irrelevant to us. Yeah. I didn't care about quarterly numbers. I don't care about I was like, nope, it's not enough. Keep going. Yeah. Right? Yep. And so we set out with that goal in mind. And we're like, dude, I know we don't want to do this, but we can do it for 7 years. Yep. Like, we know if that's the goal, if that's the finish line, right?
For sure.
So lifelong freedom was the goal, and this was the vehicle that was going to get me there. I know people talk about chasing their passion and like doing something you love and all that, and I'm all for it. But I just took a different path. Like, for me, it was like, nope, this gives me freedom. I'm passionate about that. I'll go find fun things to do after the fact.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you don't always love all the work that you have to do to get to the vision that you have for yourself, you know, and that's part of the problem. Everybody thinks like they should be super passionate about it, or all the work that they're doing should be super sexy, you know, and the reality of it is it's not, you know. I mean, as far as the work goes, a majority of stuff that you have to do day in and day out, and it's not going to be sexy.
Yeah. I mean, if something's not making you happy, or it's not going to lead to a path that's going to make you happier in the future,
that's
then
a
you
good
got to
point.
let it go.
That's a good point.
Like for me, it didn't make me happy, but I knew
People
it would
miss
lead
the second part,
to the
dude.
happiness in the future. So I was willing to do that.
The problem is people just get these jobs. They just take any job out of college, and it's like you just suffer for 30 years. Like you were like, okay, 5 to 7 years, we're out and we're millionaires. Like it's like it's not like like I'll just suffer through this career through my entire life, and then maybe have a good 401k or you know what I mean? Like,
which if you can find something you like to do, and you know what I mean, and you don't have to chase millions of dollars. But for me, is I can't really find anything I want to do full time like that I have to do, and so it's like freedom. That's it. That's priority number one.
I feel like in the beginning of your story, right, growing up, it seems like you were motivated by earning money. It seemed
just the bigger paycheck, right?
Like to meet your needs because you grew up without it.
Right.
I was kind of the same way too, but then I'm feeling like from the conversations that we've had recently, like I'm feeling like that's kind of shifted for you. Post,
100%.
It's shifted, and maybe the shift started. Maybe it started while you were building your healthcare staffing company, but I know for a fact it shifted now.
It did actually while I was building the company. Once we hit a level of success, and I grew as a leader. Yeah. Like 2020 was a pivotal year for me. You know, we were in 2019 we did just about 10 million in revenue. So from 2015 so we bootstrapped the company, no outside capital, just me and my business partner, a couple of laptops and some phones. Took out a small business loan to hire our first big employee. And we took it from 0 to 10 million in 2019, right? In just those 4 years. So
beautiful.
And we were on pace to double in 2020. We were going to be a $20 million company in year 5, mission accomplished. Let's do it, right?
Yeah.
COVID happens. I mean, I lose 50% of the business. We lose 50% of the business in 6 weeks. My life's dreams are
you're in healthcare.
Over. In healthcare, they were supporting hospitals. They didn't need us. The hospitals were shut down, and I've got a couple hundred employees deployed all over the country. We've got them in apartments that we're paying for, and I got to cancel those leases. I got to take that hit. It's and I got to be good partners to my clients because they're taking it on the chin. So I'm just we'll just take it on the chin. Can't pass that burden on to you. So I don't get rattled very often. But that messed me up. I had a setback for a couple months. I'm like, dude, I just lost everything I've been working for, the mission, and I'm so close to the finish line, right?
Yep. That's the thing. That's the real punch in the gut, man. Like you're so close to that finish line.
I mean, the whole company was rallying around 20 and 20 million.
Yeah, that's more than 2020. That's basically getting gutted. That's not a setback. That's getting gutted.
Yeah, and then I'm looking around, right? And I'm a fierce, independent person. I believe in our Constitution, and I'm just watching it go to shit all day, every day. So now I'm in a dark place. I'm just the world's ending.
Doubly
my
depressive.
life's ending.
Doubly depressive.
How many employees did you have at the time? How many team members?
We probably had maybe 10 internal and 100 and so people deployed throughout the country.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're all, and you're the guy. You and your partner are the guys. They're looking to you for answers.
Yeah. I mean, I take that serious.
Your clients, your people, your team, everything. Yeah.
I took the responsibility as a leader. I felt like I was responsible. At the end, we had 340 people, all told, consultants and internal. I took it. I was responsible for their livelihoods. Every day when I woke up, I felt that. I lived that way because I am. At the end of the day, the decisions I make impact every one of these people's lives, and they've got children. They're trying to take them to colleges and schools or whatever they're trying to do. And so I took that very serious. And so, I mean, I had employees that I made promises to. One of the big things at the company that I always told the employees was listen, you come here, much like the promise was made to me. You give me everything you got. I'll ensure that you can earn this kind of money, life-changing money. I paid my people really, really well. And you can talk to some business strategy stuff on how we built our culture and what we did and why it was so successful. I mean, we had a shared mission. We got all the employees aligned with that. I aligned variable compensation with every employee in the company. So if the company performed, even our non-commissioned employees got a bonus based on the company's performance.
Gotcha.
Everybody had a chance to earn equity in the business. When we sold, I think about 5% of the business went to the employees. Yeah. Some of those people got life-changing money. That's
one of the things, and we're definitely going to have to come back for a round 2 on the business strategy side of things. But I do, that's a story that you told me. Yeah. And you told me that it's been a while. I don't know if it was post-seminar the first time you told me that story, I think. But I do want you to tell the story of one of your team members that you made the promise to, specifically about her child and college. Yeah, I would love
that
for you
story
to.
just came full circle like last week too.
I would love for you to tell that story because everybody watching and listening can feel the shift in 2020 that happened, but I want you to really back it up with that story.
Yeah. So a few years before, she was our first employee in like late 2015, right?
Yeah.
2016. So I got an SBA loan to hire her. I was recruiting her. I'm like, you need to come here. Like, we need a stud like you on the team. And she's a grinder, right? And she's just like, listen, I'll take the risk. I'll come with you guys. But my son's like super smart. He's like a real little tech genius. Like, he's going to go to MIT or something. He's going to start a software company. Like, this is his life dream. Like, this is what he wants to do. I want to pay for his college.
Yeah.
Will you guys help me like make that happen here? And I'm like, yeah, I promise you we can make that happen here.
Yeah.
If we just put in the work together, we'll do it. So fast forward 2022, he's actually going into college.
Yep.
We're able to cut her a check that more than pays for college.
That's amazing.
He's now at Georgia Tech. He's a freshman, first ever freshman to win this accelerator program where he started a software company, him and his buddies. It's like a music distribution sort of thing where he signs up. I don't even know what you call them. Like record label kind of places, you know what I mean? Like, and so he signs them up. And he's got like the software as a service going on.
Amazing.
I just had him come to a mastermind with me last week. Dude, he's just a sponge. He's soaking it up. I mean, that's full cycle there. And what's so cool about that is, like, for me as an entrepreneur, like, that's the most fulfilling part of this. Like, yeah, I got to make a lot of money along the way, but people's lives got changed forever. The directions of their families, some of the people in my company, they're changed forever based on the what we were able to create and give them the opportunity to earn on their own. Like, I didn't give that to them. They earned it. Yeah. But my job as a leader was to give them an environment and an opportunity to execute on that. Right. And that was the promise I had to deliver on, is to keep that going. And dude, it's so incredibly fulfilling. So if you think about where I'm trying to do, I want to put that on steroids. Man. I want more companies. I want to teach other leaders how to do that. And I only want to work with people that want to have an impact far beyond their bottom line.
If you didn't, I don't want to call it a shift, because I think that type of caring nature is in your DNA. But if you didn't make that move to open up earning to your team, you know what I mean? So that when there was an exit, their lives could be changed. And if you didn't do that, and you just had your exit, right? And it was about you, and you got your payout and all that other stuff, what type of mental state do you think it would have put you in?
I certainly wouldn't have felt as good about it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know, because we were always so connected as a team and as a company. People use
that
term like the whole family. I really don't. It wasn't what we were.
Yeah, it seems to me
people
like
use the whole family thing. Like, don't call your work team, but like we operated that. We actually gave a shit about each other. We actually gave a shit about our clients. Yeah, believe it or not, we just cared about doing a good job. Everyone that we brought in, for the most part, right? We had a few people you had to work through, but they actually just they cared about, for their own pride. Yeah, doing a good job that day, and for the person next to them. We had a phrase. We said, flexibility with accountability. Like, we were super flexible with hours and all that stuff, but you had to be accountable. And you want to go to your kid's game? Cool. Yep. Just send an email, let us know you're out. Like, because you got it, because that's important to you. That's cool.
For sure.
That's important to me too.
I like the phrase. I've never heard it described quite that well.
Because you can do whatever you want. Work needs to get done. Yeah. So maybe you left early on Friday, but guess what? Saturday morning, I expect that still to come in because it needs to get done, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Or make a plan, lean into a teammate so that you really can check out. Yeah. But the goal was, like, have a plan. The work still needs to get done. Yep. And in that, we became really dependent on each other, right? Yeah. I mean, my employees could call me anytime. Like, I had clients in California. It's like 10 o'clock Eastern. I'm firing some guy because one of my employees, whose job it is to do it, went out for happy hour. She's like, I can't do this right now, And I'm like, I got you. Yeah, I got your back. I got your back. And we always had each other's back, you know what I mean? And we cared about each other.
And you delivered on that up until the very end.
Always, and even through the earnout. Like, so we sold the company, and who we sold the company to, we made sure that our cultures were aligned.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. It was really important for us.
I love it. Yeah. Questions about the building or the exit before I take us away from that?
No, not offhand.
So, what is it's a big question, but what's next, right? Yeah. So, I know, because we've talked a little bit about it, but I want you to share it with the community, and I think some of that what's next also ties into why you're here with us and,
Yeah.
you know, our excitement to be on this now journey with you, like for real, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think I can tie this back into like 2020, right? So
Yeah.
things went sideways. I fell into bad habits, right? Started not drinking, eating pizza every day, like just like whatever. It's all over, right? So I went from working out pretty regularly and doing well with the business to just like whatever, right? I'm just gonna and
So you went back, you started sliding back to like post-college.
bad habits. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Post-college guy, just working all the time, like just got completely disengaged, frustrated in social media. Dude, I think one day I just woke up and I was like, I hate how I feel. Like, this is
Enough's
not
enough.
who you are. Enough is enough. And someone's like, yo, you need to read this book. So I read David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, or the audio version.
Oh,
Great read, great read.
Bro, I got done that book and I'm just like, you're being a little bitch. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't who you are as a person. You're a fighter. Like, get your shit together. Deleted all social media off my phone, which is funny. It's like now it's like everyone's like, well, I haven't heard of you. Like, dude, I was in a bubble for 8 years. I don't even have a social media. Like, I had it, but it wasn't accessible to me at all. I just locked in and did the work for 8 years. And I think a lot of people are too busy trying to tell how great they are and like playing the game of entrepreneur instead of getting the work done, right? So like I've got proven cred. I'll go play the game on social media and help people understand like what it is and tell the story because I think it's impactful for people. So I had a huge turnaround, and then Jocko's extreme ownership was the other thing that really helped me switch around my mindset with regards to my family, my health, and even as a leader. I was like, this all starts and ends with me. If I want to see change in the business, if I want to see change at home, if I want to change, like it's all starts and ends with me. I have this, all this stuff's going to follow you no matter where you go. You have to change. So that idea of being introspective and changing that really informed me on what I want to do next, right? And so like that's when I started to be like, you know, these are people's lives. This is more than me just getting a win. I signed up for jiu-jitsu. Then I'd never done martial arts, wrestling in my life. And I go into Matt Arroyo's Gracie Tampa South and just get choked out for 2 years, right? Like, I'm like, this is brutal. But it's humbling as a leader. You get humbled every morning, right? So I went into work totally humble, ready to lead, ready to be service. Totally ego in check.
Servant.
And I think it's a huge part of leadership, man. You have to be able to keep your ego in check. So I do all that. I have the big exit. And I have the freedom now, right? Like I can do what I want with who I want, whenever I want, right? I could live the international man of leisure life if I wanted to. But I just not fulfilling. I've seen now what it's like to have an impact on people's lives. And I'm like, dude, that's the juice. So for me, it's multi-pronged, right? I'm the recognition that I need, if I want to have the impact I want to have in the world, I need to increase my wealth. And not just so I can have more shit, so I can have a bigger impact. Like I recognize now, if I want to have an impact on our nation, like I want to, cultural impact, I need to have cultural relevance and I need to have financial influence.
It's going to take a shitload of money to do it.
It's going to take a shitload of money to do it.
We just, Tim's in the back, he works in a shop, and we just had this conversation yesterday that, you know, money is a magnifier of meaning and impact. You know what I mean? And like without it, you're never going to be able to 10x steroids, whatever, however you want to describe it, like that impact that you want.
And that's the plan, right? So multi-pronged approach. I just started a book.
Nice.
So I was all gearing up to do an amateur MMA fight, just my personal joy and challenge. Because to me, like that's the ultimate form of discipline. Like my life has to completely align around it. And it had been. I left the company in late February. I was training like a pro for 4 months, like, you know, just dialed in. Then I just had emergency surgery. So that kind of kicked the can on that. I took about 3 days and I was like, all right, well, I got 6 weeks. What can I get done? Right. So I tagged in this person I know who helps write books. So I'm like, let's get on that. We'll start the book. And I'm working on building out the structure for coaching and speaking businesses. Really with the goal of teaching this model and hoping that I only want to work with leaders who want to have an impact, right? So if I can help them have an impact with their employees and their company and kind of implement my model so that they can have a ripple effect. And then I want to acquire companies and invest in companies where I can help them spread the message. And in so doing, hopefully by the time I'm wrapping up, you know, there's a massive wave that I can,
there will be.
I get
You've got a book.
I mean,
you've got a very heavy, hefty book of proof that it's going to happen.
Man. And I think, you know, it scares the shit out of me. I don't want to be doing, like, I'm a pretty private person, believe it or not. The reason I'm leaning into all this is because it scares the shit out of me. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable. And I'm like, every time I've leaned into something that made me uncomfortable, it had a compound effect on the back end, like massively for me. Every time I leaned into that. So this whole thing makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to go speak on stages and I'm going to go act like I coach for people. But the more I do it, the more I realize I do have something to share.
Yeah, of course.
And we can have an impact. So I'm just leaning into it.
Yeah.
And I want to acquire a bunch of companies and have a little bit more hands in it myself, you know.
Sure.
And hire CEOs to do the thing. Yeah.
Amazing. Any questions? No?
No, that was, I mean, what a story, dude. And like the ending is just...
That's the thing. It's
like a new beginning, obviously.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, it's just the beginning. It's far from the end. I feel like, you know, the feelings that you had with being able to give back to your team during that earnout are actually going to be dwarfed by what you do next.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do, because it lit a fire under me where I'm like, all right, I could sit around drinking margaritas forever, I guess, but I don't know.
It's not, it's not you.
And for me, it's like I've kind of come to this idea, like true wealth is not just having a bunch of money, right? Like if I don't have my health, I've been working on phrasing for the book, right? Trying to like categorize it. So wealth, well-being, and wellness. Yep. Right? Mentally and physically strong, have financially strong, and then just be generally happy and comfortable. Yeah, right?
For sure.
And if I can create that for more people, get more people out of that paycheck to paycheck, free them from that mundane, I think they can be better informed citizens. Yep. And then I think we can have a real change in the country.
Yeah, make better decisions. And actually, when you alleviate that stress and anxiety from them, they can start to think for themselves and not what they're fed. So I see it all connecting, man, and I know it's going to happen. And like, I'm so pumped for our wagons now to be hitched together, so that we can both do the work to make it happen, you know, with what you're doing and what, you know, we're doing with Fuel Hunt. Similar missions.
100%.
Yeah. Similar missions. Yeah, man. All right. So where can the community find you? Yep. On social, or if you have a site? Yeah.
Well, just Brian McNally on Facebook, McNally_B on Instagram. But really, the hub is brianmcnally.com. All the socials are there.
Amazing.
I did start a charitable fund called the Baru Fund. Okay. So you can make donations there and everything. So
very nice. Very nice.
It'll all be linked to brianmcnally.com.
Okay, cool. We're going to bring it back for part 2 where we dive into similar to the business strategy. Yeah. But the overwhelming majority of the community of the Eagles that are going to watch and listen are going to take a lot of value from your story and what it really takes to live the rules of the few and what can really happen when you do. Yeah. I appreciate you coming in today. You didn't bring the flamingo, but that's okay.
I mean, I tried. It wouldn't fit in my carry-on.
When Brian flew in, there was a giant flamingo in the airport in Florida, and he threatened to bring it with him. He just came by himself. I told him that's all we need. You just need him. That's it.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys having me, man. This is exciting. I'm excited for what we're going to do in the future.
Very grateful for you, man. Very grateful for you. All right, I leave the few with a reminder. Always choose hard work over handouts. Always choose effort over entitlement. And remember, no one owns you, no one owes you. You're one of the few. Now let's hunt.